What if everything you've been taught about how to think is just the surface level of a much deeper game? That the mind isn't just a tool for logic, but an architecture that can be designed, fortified, and wielded with precision. Most people live their entire lives reacting to the world. They respond to stimuli, follow visible rules, and operate on a plane of obvious cause and effect. But there exists another layer, a substrate of human interaction governed by patterns of psychology, perception, and unspoken power. To access this layer is to move from being a piece on the board to understanding the rules of the game itself. This is not about becoming cruel or manipulative. This is about developing a formidable mind-to-mind that sees, understands, and navigates complexity with clarity and strategic intent. Today, we are going to construct that mind, piece by piece, principle by principle. We will build it using 8 core psychological pillars. These are not random tips, but interconnected components of a cohesive framework for strategic thought. By the end of this, you will have a blueprint for perception, for decision-making, and for navigating the often murky waters of ambition, relationships, and power. The first pillar, the foundation of this entire structure, is strategic ambiguity. Let's break down exactly what this means, why it works on a neurological level, and how you can apply it without becoming dishonest. Strategic ambiguity is the conscious management of information disclosure. It is the understanding that total transparency is not a virtue. It is often a vulnerability. When you reveal everything, your intentions, your plans, your weaknesses, your desires, you hand over the map of your internal world. You give others the ability to predict you, to anticipate your moves, and, if they are so inclined, to manipulate your triggers. Strategic ambiguity is not about lying. It is about selective truth-telling. It is about understanding that information is a form of currency. And like any currency, its value is governed by scarcity. When you speak less, when you reveal only what is necessary to guide an interaction, your words carry more weight. Each sentence becomes more valuable because it is not diluted in a sea of unnecessary detail. The psychological mechanism at play here is profound. The human brain is a pattern-seeking, meaning-making machine. It hates informational vacuums. When presented with incomplete data, it automatically works to fill in the gaps. This is called the narrative completion impulse. By providing strategic fragments, a hint of a project, a vague but intriguing answer to a personal question, a smile instead of an explanation, you are not being confusing. You are initiating a psychological process within the other person. They begin to construct a story, and because they are building it with their own assumptions, biases, and imaginations, the story they build is often more compelling and often more favorable to you than any full explanation you could have given. They are doing the persuasive work for themselves. Think of the most captivating people you've ever met. The leaders or figures who commanded a room not by volume, but by presence. They were likely masters of this principle. They didn't explain their magic. They didn't justify their decisions to everyone. They understood that mystery is not the absence of clarity. It is a different kind of clarity. It is the clarity of focus. You focus their attention on what you choose to reveal, and their own minds magnify its importance. So, how do you practice this? You start with small, low-stakes interactions. Someone asks, "What are you working on these days?" The standard, transparent response is to list your projects. The strategically ambiguous response is, "I'm deep in a couple of ventures that are really challenging my assumptions. It's fascinating." Then you pivot. You ask them a question. You change the subject. You have given enough to be engaging, but not enough to be cataloged. You have created a curiosity gap. That gap is where your influence grows in negotiations. This means not revealing your bottom line or your maximum price immediately. In leadership, it means not announcing every strategic shift to the entire organization, but allowing the narrative to unfold in a controlled manner. In personal life, it means not pouring your entire life story out on a first date or in a new friendship. You allow the relationship to earn the information through time and trust. Your personal narrative is an asset. Manage it with the care of a curator, not the carelessness of a public broadcaster. This leads us directly to the second pillar, the adaptive mask. Now, this term can sound sinister, so we must define it with precision. The adaptive mask is not about being fake. It is the opposite of being fake. It is about being so genuinely in control of your multifaceted self that you can consciously choose which facet to present to best connect with, communicate with, and influence the person or situation in front of you. Think of your personality not as a single solid statue, but as a complex gemstone. A diamond has many faces, many facets, each cut to reflect light in a specific way. The diamond itself is authentic, is hard, it is carbon, it is genuine. But which facet it presents to the viewer changes the nature of the sparkle. The adaptive mask is the skill of rotating the gem. The psychological basis for this is communication theory. People process information and connect emotionally through different primary channels. Some people are predominantly logical. Their world is built on data, reason, cause, and effect. Speak to them in emotional appeals, and they will dismiss you as fluffy or irrational. Others are predominantly emotional. They connect through stories, feelings, shared experiences. Speak to them with cold, hard data, and they will feel unseen and disconnected. Others are practical, focused on utility and action. Others are big-picture visionaries. If you communicate only in your native channel, the one most comfortable to you, you will fail to connect with a significant portion of the human population. You will be speaking your dialect in a foreign land. The adaptive mask is about learning to speak multiple social languages. You are not changing your core message. The integrity of the diamond remains. You are changing the delivery system so the message can be received. Here is a practical, step-by-step application. You walk into a meeting. Your goal is to secure resources for a new initiative. You have 4 key stakeholders in the room. The CFO is logical. To her, you lead with numbers, projected return on investment, cost-benefit analysis, risk assessment metrics. The head of marketing is emotional and visionary. To him, you paint the picture, the story of how this will change the customer experience, the brand perception, the emotional payoff. The operations lead is practical. To her, you focus on implementation timelines, resource allocation, and step-by-step processes. You are not telling each person a different lie. You are highlighting different, equally true aspects of the same initiative, framed in the language they best understand. This is high-resolution empathy. It is the understanding that effective communication is not about what you say, but about what the other person hears. To do this well requires observation. It requires listening before speaking. It requires asking questions to diagnose a person's primary channel. Are they asking why questions? They might be. Are they asking how questions? They are likely practical. Are they challenging your data? They are logical. This skill transforms you from a person who is sometimes understood to a person who is consistently understandable. It makes you a social alchemist, able to connect with seemingly disparate individuals. But the anchor, always, is your core integrity. You adapt your presentation, never your principles. You are flexible in method, steadfast in values. This fluid strength brings us to the third pillar, which provides the emotional stability to practice the first two. Detached investment. Detached investment is the mental and emotional framework that makes you unconquerable by fear. It is the practice of caring deeply, working passionately, and striving fully, while simultaneously holding within yourself the quiet knowledge that you will be okay if it all goes away. Your identity, your worth, your fundamental security cannot be lashed to any external outcome. Not a job title, not a specific relationship, not a bank account number, not the approval of a particular person or group. When your sense of self is tied to these external anchors, you are handing over the remote control to your emotional state, to the whims of the world. You become a puppet, and fear of loss is the string. Detachment is not apathy. Apathy is not caring. Detachment is caring from a place of abundance and self-containment, rather than scarcity and neediness. It is the difference between saying, "I choose to be here," and "I need to be here to survive." This is the single most important psychological shift for preventing manipulation. All manipulation, at its core, operates on one lever: the fear of losing something you believe you need. A manipulator threatens your job, your relationship, your reputation, your social standing. If you are attached, if you are terrified of that loss, you will comply. You will accept poor treatment. You will compromise your values. You will make bad deals. But if you have cultivated detached investment, the threat evaporates. You can look at the threat and think, "That would be unfortunate, but it would not destroy me. I have other options. I have other sources of value and identity." This instantly removes the manipulator's power. Think of two people entering a negotiation. Person A needs this deal. Their rent, their ego, their next career step depends on it. Person B wants this deal, but they have other viable paths. They can walk away. Who holds the power? Person B, unequivocally. Their detachment grants them clarity, patience, and the ability to make rational, not desperate, decisions. This principle applies to every arena of life. In relationships, detachment means loving someone because you choose to, not because you are afraid of being alone. This actually leads to healthier, freer connections. In creativity, it means pursuing an idea for the joy of it, not for the desperate need for validation, which often kills genuine expression. In ambition, it means working toward a goal with focus, but not tying your entire self-worth to its achievement. Cultivating this is a daily practice. It starts with small internal declarations. You practice not needing to have the last word in an insignificant argument. You practice accepting that a social event you wanted to go to was canceled and being perfectly content at home. You practice the mental exercise of envisioning the loss of things you value. Job, a possession, a connection, and then envisioning yourself rebuilding, adapting, and finding new paths. This is not morbid. It is immunization. It strengthens your psychological immune system. As you build this muscle, a profound shift occurs. People begin to sense your emotional sovereignty. They sense that you cannot be easily controlled through pressure or panic. This commands a deep, instinctive respect. You become calm in crises because your stability is internal, not dependent on external calm. You become a source of strength for others because you are not draining your energy on attachment anxiety. This grounded power is the platform from which you can exercise the fourth pillar: indirect authority. Forget every Hollywood depiction of power as shouting, posturing, and overt dominance. That is the illusion of power, often worn by the deeply insecure. Real authority, enduring influence, is most often indirect. It is not about pushing people. It is about shaping the environment, the context, and the options so that people choose, of their own volition, to move in the direction you intend. It is the difference between being a loud wind trying to push a sailboat, and being the subtle shift in the current and the tide that guides the boat effortlessly to its destination. Indirect authority understands that direct resistance creates direct opposition. When you tell someone what to do, you trigger their innate reactance, their psychological need to assert autonomy. Even if they comply, they resent it. But when you create a situation where the best, most logical, most appealing choice from their perspective happens to align with your goals, they feel empowered and own the decision. This is the essence of silent leverage. Your influence works in the background. How is this achieved? Through patience, observation, and positioning. In a group discussion, instead of forcefully stating your conclusion, you might ask a series of Socratic questions that lead the group to discover that conclusion themselves. They will champion it as their own idea, and you will have guided them there without a single declarative command. In an organization, instead of demanding respect through title, You become the person who quietly solves the most critical, thorny problems. You don't seek credit. You seek results. Over time, people naturally bring their biggest challenges to you. Your opinion becomes sought after because it is associated with solutions, not ego. You have positioned yourself as the de facto authority without ever having to claim the title. In a conflict, indirect authority might mean refusing to engage in a shouting match. Instead, you calmly state your boundary or perspective once, and then let the silence and the weight of your composure do the work. The other person, expecting a fight, is disarmed by your lack of resistance. They often talk themselves into a corner or reveal their true intentions. Your power lies in your refusal to play the game on their emotional terms. This requires immense self-control. It is the discipline of the long game. You are not looking for the immediate satisfaction of winning a point. You are building a reputation, a gravitational field of influence that pulls outcomes towards you over time. It is the cultivation of presence over proclamation. This deep understanding of human dynamics is sharpened by the fifth pillar, the reflective echo. This is the pinnacle of empathetic intelligence, made strategic. The reflective echo is the practice of listening, not merely to the content of someone's words, but to the underlying emotional data, values, and unmet needs being transmitted. Then, you reflect that understanding back to them in a clear, concise way. When you do this accurately, you create a moment of profound psychological validation. The person feels, often for the first time in a given situation, truly seen and understood. This builds trust at an accelerated rate. The mechanism is simple, in theory, profound in effect. Every complaint, every statement, every aspiration has a surface layer and a substrate. Someone says, "I'm so frustrated with this bureaucracy." The surface is a complaint about processes. The substrate might be a value for efficiency, a desire for autonomy, or a fear of being powerless. The reflective echo responds to the substrate, you might say. It sounds like you value getting things done effectively, and this process feels like it's working against that. You have not agreed or disagreed with their complaint. You have connected with the core value, driving it. The result is almost magical. They will often say, "Exactly, that's it." They feel you are on their side, because you are speaking the language of their internal world. Once you have established this connection, you have built a bridge of immense strength. Any suggestion, idea, or direction you offer that is framed as a way to honor that core value or address that core fear will be met with openness, not resistance. You are not persuading them to do something you want. You are helping them find a path to what they deeply want. This is why it is so powerful in leadership, therapy, sales, and parenting. You are aligning agendas at a fundamental level. To master this, you must quiet your own inner monologue and listen with full focus. Listen for emotion words. Listen for repeated themes. Listen for what is not being said. Then, formulate a hypothesis and reflect it back. So the real priority for you here is, or it seems like what's most important in this, is this tool, used ethically, is about creating clarity and alignment, not deception. It is about helping people articulate their own truths, which in turn makes them more effective and self. This nuanced approach to ethics brings us to the sixth pillar, pragmatic morality. The world of real consequence is painted in shades of gray, not the black and white of children's stories. Pragmatic morality is the philosophical and practical approach that prioritizes ethical outcomes over rigid adherence to moral rules that may, in a specific context, create greater harm. It is the understanding that sometimes the kindest action in the long run appears harsh in the moment, and the most virtuous-seeming action can enable dysfunction. This is the burden of contextual ethics. It is the morality of the adult, the leader, the protector. Let's illustrate with a difficult example. You are a manager with a team member who is well-liked, has personal struggles, but is consistently missing deadlines and delivering poor work, dragging down the morale and output of the entire team. A kind action, following a rule of be nice and compassionate, might be to give them endless second chances, accommodations, and to protect them from consequences. However, the pragmatic moral outcome of that action is the demoralization of the rest of the team, decreased performance for clients, and ultimately a worse outcome for the business that provides everyone's livelihood. It also enables the struggling employee to continue in a role that may be a poor fit, stunting their own growth. The pragmatic moral choice, though painful, may be to move them out of that role. This serves the greater good of the team, the company, and may even force the employee to find a path better suited to them. It is a hard decision made with compassion for the whole system, not just one individual. Pragmatic morality asks the difficult question: what action, within my fundamental ethical boundaries, leads to the best possible outcome for the most people involved with the least long-term harm? It requires you to think in systems, not just in isolated incidents. It demands courage, because these decisions are often unpopular in the short term. You must be willing to be misunderstood. Your guardrail, your non-negotiable foundation, is your core ethical code. You must define the lines. You will never cross principles like not causing intentional, gratuitous harm, not lying for purely selfish gain, not betraying essential trusts. Within that sturdy ethical frame, you allow yourself the flexibility to be effective. This is the opposite of moral relativism. It is moral sophistication. It is the ethics of a surgeon who must cut to heal, or a general who sacrifices a position to save an army. This clear-eyed realism about the world necessitates the seventh pillar: controlled revelation. In an era where social media demands constant personal broadcast, where vulnerability is often performative, and where oversharing is the norm, the strategic mind practices rigorous curation. Controlled revelation is the deliberate management of your personal narrative across all platforms and interactions. It is based on a simple, powerful truth: what people don't know, they will speculate about. And speculation is almost always more powerful than reality. When you reveal everything, you become defined. You become a known quantity. When you reveal strategically, you remain dynamic, evolving, and intriguing. You control the narrative of who you are. This is not about creating a false persona. It is about understanding that not every thought, feeling, success, or failure needs to be public property. Your inner world is a sanctuary, not a content farm. The psychological principle here is again scarcity and the curiosity gap. A social media profile that documents every meal, every thought, every minor life event becomes background noise. A profile that shares occasional high-signal insights, meaningful achievements, or intriguing hints about projects creates a focused narrative. People pay attention because they don't know what's coming next. In person, this means sharing your history, your opinions, your personal life gradually, as trust and intimacy are earned. It means answering a personal question with a truthful but bounded answer that invites a deeper connection through time. Not dumping your entire autobiography on a new acquaintance. In a professional setting, it means not showcasing every skill you have on day one, but revealing capabilities as they become relevant. Creating a perception of continual growth and hidden depth. The goal is to be perceived as deep, not shallow, substantial, not transparent. You are building a reputation as a person of substance, where substance implies there is more beneath the surface. This requires discipline. It requires resisting the dopamine hit of oversharing for validation. It requires asking before you speak or post: does sharing this serve my goals or my sing-song? Does it provide value, or does it just seek attention? This controlled, disciplined approach to your own story is what fuels the final unifying pillar. Relentless. This is the engine that drives the entire architecture. It is the disciplined focus on outcomes, to the exclusion of vanity, ego, and activity for activity's sake. Most people confuse effort with results. They pride themselves on being busy, on working long hours, on the struggle. The strategically oriented mind asks only one question: what is the specific, measurable outcome I need to achieve? Every action, every conversation, every project is then evaluated against a simple filter. Is this directly contributing to moving me toward that outcome? If the answer is no, the action is eliminated, delegated, or minimized. This is the ruthless application of the Pareto principle. 80% of your results will come from 20% of your actions. Your job is to identify that critical 20% and pour your focus into it. This requires killing your ego. You must abandon the desire to be right if being right doesn't produce the result. You must be willing to let others take credit if it means the goal is achieved. You must be willing to change your entire plan if the data shows it's not working. Result orientation is the enemy of sunk cost fallacy. It doesn't matter how much time, money, or emotion you've invested in a failing path. If it's not producing the outcome, you pivot. This mindset transforms you from a dreamer into an achiever. In conflicts, you stop trying to win arguments and start trying to achieve your underlying objective, which is rarely to prove a point. In business, you stop doing things because that's how it's always been done, and start doing only what moves key metrics. In personal growth, you stop engaging in feel-good activities that don't create change, and you commit to the uncomfortable, deliberate practice that does. This pillar ties all the others together. Strategic ambiguity serves the result by protecting your leverage. The adaptive mask serves the result by ensuring your message is received. Detached investment serves the result by freeing you from fear-based errors. Indirect authority serves the result by building influence that drives outcomes. The reflective echo serves the result by aligning others with your goals. Pragmatic morality serves the result by ensuring your wins are sustainable and ethical. Controlled revelation serves the result by crafting a narrative that supports your objectives. The mind built on these 8 pillars is not a dark mind in the sense of being evil. It is a mind that can see in the dark. It can navigate complexity, perceive underlying currents, protect itself from manipulation, and move with purpose and precision toward meaningful objectives. It is a mind that is awake. The power this brings carries a non-negotiable responsibility. The responsibility of wisdom, to use this understanding, not for predation, but for protection, not for exploitation, but for creation, not to diminish others, but to build something that elevates your own life, and by extension, the lives you choose to connect with. This is the architecture of a formidable mind. Now, the blueprint is yours. The construction is your life's work. Begin. Intelligence is not just seeing the pieces, it's understanding the game.